I'm Danny, and this is the Scream Princess podcast.
I am joined by a fellow Scream Queen. I think this is the first real kind of Scream Queen that I've actually had on the show because we've covered all kinds of different horror things. I've had authors, directors, writers,
Oh,
um, I don't know, all kinds of things. But actually, I haven't had another
oh
full-on
my goodness. Well,
Queen.
then I am honored to be here and to be the first.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
OMG,
Thank you.
thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for agreeing to give me an hour of your valuable time.
Me too, thank you.
So, how have you been?
I'm fine. I'm very well. I'm keeping busy, trying to keep busy.
You are
Uh,
always busy. I follow your social
well,
media and you are so good with your socials. Like
thank
every time
you.
I look at them, something pops up. Like there's a new, I don't know, you're in this magazine, that magazine, this website, this podcast, but you're great at
Bless
kind
you.
of
I
doing
mean,
your PR.
you're very sweet. I mean, I think I'm probably better at like making myself look busy than, so sometimes I'm like posting something and in reality I'm just sitting on my sofa eating chocolate. So it's like
That's
this
part of the
kind of,
game though, right? And it's doing
like,
your own, basically doing your own PR and your own
yeah,
advertising.
like behind the veneer of, you know, constant busyness. In reality, I've got probably quite a boring life in reality, but
Okay. Well, people
you
say that
know,
to me. They're like, "What are you up to?" I'm like, wearing my pajamas. They're like, "It's lunchtime." I'm like, "Oh yes,
yeah,
I've been up. I've been to the gym. I've come home, showered. I'm not going anywhere today." So pajamas.
back in my
No.
pajamas,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well, it's very cold in the northeast, and we've had. It feels like it's been a really long winter, and when it's only probably a few degrees colder, but it's really noticeable. So you kind of want to wear pajamas.
How are you feeling in the Northeast? Because
It's
you've been
good.
up there for like a year now.
Yeah, it's literally a year. I was looking on my Facebook memories, and it was a year yesterday that we'd finally finished decorating, and I was sat on the
Oh my
sofa with a glass of
goodness.
Prosecco. So it's gone very quickly. It's a really, really like I think the older you get, the years go much
Yeah,
faster,
I
which is
agree.
saddening because I don't really want to get older. So that bit kind of sucks.
I mean, I think I like getting older, and I think, don't you think life is better now than when you were
Yeah, I
22?
mean, in a way, I mean, I think I just don't want to look older. I want to
You
stay,
look
you know.
beautiful, sweetheart. Stop it.
Thank
Come on.
you. But no, I think you definitely, the older you get, you kind of know yourself more, you're more comfortable in your own skin than you used to be.
Absolutely.
And you're not kind of, you know exactly who you are and what you want, and you're not kind of trying to please anybody anymore other than yourself,
Hmm.
pretty much. And I think that's the lesson that a lot of younger women could learn is like, please yourself, do what works for you, and kind of
Absolutely.
be
Yeah.
true and authentic to who you are. So there is that. So, and that was actually another thing. I mean, I've got loads of questions for you, and they're all going to come out in the wrong order because I've written them
No.
in a weird order, and I think as as they kind of come up, it's going to be what it is. But I was thinking you are pretty girl power as well. So I know people think of a scream queen and they think, they think we spend half our time running away from, knifed killers and what have you. I know exactly. But I think we've both kind of have a look where we actually lend ourselves to the baddies as well. So we kind of
Yeah.
get a bit of both. But you are actually very girl power. You're a very independent woman. You can control your own PR, you're controlling
Mhm.
your own career. So whether I think a lot of us have had agents and then don't have agents, but even when we don't, we're getting our own work, we're kind of generating our own work and finding, ways of keeping busy.
Absolutely. No, I'm very, very independent, always have been. And I would give that advice to any woman starting out in life, whether that's as an actress or even, even if you're nothing to do with acting and you're just going to school to be a lawyer or whatever. I would say make your own money,
Yeah.
always do what is right for you. I think this is one place where I see women um, getting the rough end of the stick. I think I've always stayed away from men, and I mean that in the nicest possible way, but I don't let men lead me or sort of lead
Yeah.
where I'm going with my life. So I know girls that maybe started out acting the same time as me and then got a boyfriend and then the whole thing went off course because
They
the
didn't like
boyfriend
it
he
or
doesn't like it when I do this scene or my boyfriend. I know girls that have moved to parts of the country where there is no acting because my boyfriend wants to live. And if I, so I would always say do what suits yourself. And I have always done that. I've never moved anywhere or given up a job or anything because some man didn't like it.
Yeah, I
And
did read something
men,
actually at one point. You had there was a story somewhere about you being very independent, and it was like, I bought my own house and I don't need
mm,
a man, and like, and they do get in the way sometimes. Now, because I spent a really long time single, living in London,
yeah.
and I had, my own apartment, and that's the thing. It's like you've done it by yourself. You've got no one else to answer for. And I was single for a really long time. So I'm not now, but I found one who actually knows what I do, likes what I do, and kind of
And is
supports that.
supportive of what you
Yeah,
do.
and
That's the thing. Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, for a long time, I was very much like, because you, unless it's somebody who you're really going to stay with, unless he is the one, kind
Mm.
of wasting your time.
I agree. And I think it's draining. I think it drains you mentally and emotionally. I think men do not put women first in the way that women put men first. I've never known a man give up a job because my girlfriend doesn't like it. Men don't do this. Men do what suits themselves and they pick you up and put you down on a whim.
Yeah.
So I think men have a sense of entitlement to women's bodies. They think they own you. They think they control you. They think they can tell you what to do. So yeah, I've been single now for 15 years or
It
some like
is much
ridiculous
easier.
expanse of
It is
time.
just
But
easier. Unless, like I said, unless he's like actually the right one. And I feel like you know that pretty quickly. It's
mm,
just not, there's no point wasting your time. Like all of that time you'll spend it with that person who's not really going to factor in the
mhm.
long-term future of your life. You could be spending that time on your career and
And your
focusing on you.
energy and your mental energy, like all the time you spend thinking about him. Has he texted me? Why hasn't he texted me?
Yeah.
Is there something I should text him? All that mental
You should
energy
never
could be
text him.
expended. You could have spent that energy making a really cracking self tape.
You could, or
You
just
know,
doing some yoga, or just chilling out
yeah,
reading a book, or having a bath for 2 hours would
yeah,
be.
or something, yeah, that would help yourself.
Mm,
That's what I would say to any young woman starting out.
yes.
But don't take men off the pedestal.
No,
And
definitely focus on
yeah,
yourself first. And
hmm
if a good one comes along, then he'll kind of be there when you've got free time.
yeah, and he needs to deserve you and be consistent.
Yes. So you are originally from Northern Ireland. Derry,
You're originally
not
Australian.
I am, but you're not the Derry with the Pennywise Derry. You're from the other Derry,
The other one,
the other
that's
one.
right. I got excited when I heard they were making Return to Derry or whatever it's called. I
Can you
saw an
imagine if
article
they just
and I
decided
thought,
to
oh
change
my
the
God,
location?
I thought I'll have to apply.
Yeah,
Where's the casting director's details? I get my name in the door. And then I realized it was the one in Maine. And I was like, oh, okay, well,
I'm actually really
fair
excited to
enough.
see it though. The original two-part miniseries, that was the first horror film that I ever saw, like when I was too young. Yeah,
Really?
I was like 8 years old and I was in Canada at
Oh,
my uncle's basement with my cousins. And we watched it and we were all terrified. So there's me and then the rest of the cousins are boys and we were all so scared. I slept with the light on for like the week. Um,
I love Stephen King. He's still one of the
yeah.
best writers.
I still can't walk past those drains where it's just the hole in the side of the pavement. I have
Yes,
to
yes,
cross the
yes.
road just in case.
Really?
Just
Even
because
now?
what if a balloon comes out or a little paper boat or
Oh
something?
my goodness.
Honestly, I
That's
wouldn't
the
cope.
power of good writing, though.
Yeah, I mean it's so good. The remake, I always have this thing with remakes. I'm sure there's no point
Mm.
to remake. So I still watched it and I was like, okay, I can see a newer generation maybe would like that one, but I feel like the original still he's more
Yeah,
sinister
of
because
course.
he looks more like a man dressed as a clown rather than something so supernatural, which I think is scary
Mm.
because I don't, the supernatural is more unlikely to hurt me than a man dressed in a clown mask, I think. And
Absolutely. When you
like,
can sense that something could actually happen to you, that's actually more frightening. Um, and for us, it's the danger of encountering a man
yeah.
somewhere and you don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah.
I'd almost take my chances against a ghost.
Yeah.
um,
I mean, I like the thought of ghosts. I've never, I'm kind of dubious as to whether they exist. I would love them to exist. And I always
have
say
you
that,
ever seen one or felt like
yeah,
you've seen
I've
one?
never really experienced anything that I can't.
Explain.
Yeah, I can't put down to some kind of logic. Like my friend and I were once in a hotel and a lamp turned itself on, but I was like, well, maybe I just didn't turn it off
That could
properly.
just be the electricity, though, couldn't it? It's
Well, it
probably
was
an
one of those
electrical
old ones where you
fault.
pop the button right through, like the old
Yeah.
was, and it kind of came back. And I thought, well, maybe I probably just didn't push it all the way through. But that's the only thing that's really happened. But we joke about it now. We call him Ghost Bob because my friend is actually really scared, and I'm like, no, he likes you.
I think it's
But
interesting. One of my friends had an experience where for several months in her life, she would be in bed, like trying to go to sleep, and she would feel and sense someone would sit down on the end of her bed. And she would always look and think it must be the cat, and it was never the cat.
it was never the cat.
But for several months, she could feel, the weight of someone like sitting on your bed.
Yeah, that's
Um,
weird.
yeah,
I
but
had that after my dog died. Like she died at the end of lockdown. And then
oh, I'm
like a
sorry.
couple of months later, I was in bed and I woke up and I felt like something was like where she would have used to have slept on
Mm,
top of the covers, but like on my legs. I felt like something was weighing on my legs and like there was something there, but obviously there was not. So I mean
it's
they were
interesting, isn't
there.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like her to haunt me. That would be, I don't think the cats would like it particularly. I've got cats now. So
I mean, my friend
I
said
don't
that
feel.
she took it as a positive thing that someone was like watching over her, like
Yeah.
maybe one of her family who's passed on.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think. It's complicated,
I
but
mean, unless they something bad happened, unless one did something bad, I would assume that they're friendly because I mean,
yeah, why wouldn't they be?
why wouldn't they be? Yeah. Although I have just been watching the Conjuring and the Enfield Poltergeist Conjuring
Haunting.
too.
Oh,
So, yeah, I thought Conjuring 2 is based on that, wasn't it? So that I mean that was quite scary.
I saw the stage play starring Catherine Tate, which was terrible.
Or was it?
But yeah, maybe different, treated differently. It might have been an
Yeah.
interesting story. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, I think The Conjuring was I mean, I think it was exaggerated, obviously, for the sake of making a film good. You need a bit more, don't you? You need like,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
especially now, I think films now need a lot to actually scare an audience because people are,
Mm,
I think they're always pushing it further and further and further. So what was scary, 50 years ago
that's
wouldn't be
true.
scary to us now. Like I've just been watching, I've got the Hammer box set, which is like 40 of
Oh,
the
I see.
Hammer horror films. And I haven't ever watched them all. So we've actually been sitting on an evening and watching like one every evening. And I mean, I'm really enjoying them, but they're not scary. I'm not gonna have
Mm.
nightmares about them. Whereas people back then probably did. They probably
Yeah,
were.
I mean, it's getting harder and harder to shock people, and a lot of filming, every film that comes out has to try to top the last one.
Yeah.
Um, and it's often kind of shock value rather than building suspense.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and also I think our attention spans are shorter than they used to be
Yeah.
because we're all used to sort of TikTok videos and things where you
Mm.
have to grab an audience. I mean, I did some work making TikTok videos last year, and I had a guy I was working with, and he said, you have to grab people in the first 3 or 4 seconds, and if
Yeah,
you
because
don't
they're
grab
going
them
to watch the next
immediately,
one.
yeah, then they swipe. And it's this culture of sort of instantly, and the only way to grab people instantly is to say something sort of controversial almost. So it
Yeah.
means that you have to frame your argument almost in the most extreme version possible to grab attention. And it sort of
Yeah.
doesn't help with if you're trying to put something that's nuanced.
Yeah.
Um,
And
but
even with the
that's
gore, like I'm not into like the real kind of torture porn, the too much
mm,
gore. And I feel like people think they have to push that even further. I mean, sometimes it works, it's right for the film, but I don't always think it needs to be. And I know obviously there are audiences who want to see, the gorier the better. But I think like a lot of it should be more what you don't see.
well,
Just
if you look at like the famous, like the psycho shower scene, you don't actually see that much. It
no,
cuts quite a lot. All you see is a knife, kind of, and then there's lots of cutting.
yeah,
Um, and then it's still, that's an iconic scene, so it wasn't necessary to show every single facet of what's happening.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
the viewer's imagination. Like the
mm,
viewer is then taking what they can see and concocting even wilder stories in their head and making it even more scary. And that's then personal to them rather than,
yeah,
it's kind of all laid out on a plate for you.
I agree. What happened? Didn't you make your own film recently? Was it your first time directing?
No, I did a short for Horoscopes 3. I've actually done a short for Horoscopes 1, 2, and 3. And yeah, I did one up here though. So I did two in London when I was still in London, and I did one
Oh,
when I just moved in actually, and I managed to get pretty much a northern cast because I wanted to see how, how different it would be and if I could kind of pull people in up here. So I had a few people I knew and I had auditions for some others, and it went really well actually. It did screen at Romford. I think the last time I saw you was obviously at
yes, yes.
Horror. And I've been actually over the last few weeks, I've been playing on the site the all of the Romford Horror podcasts that I shot. But obviously I did say, I think I did mention it to you then, but I wanted to get you for a full hour, whereas at Romford I was bringing people in for maybe,
You
20.
were bringing people in, they were trying different hot sauces or
Yes.
something. And I thought, I don't know if this is for me.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that to everybody. Some
Okay.
people did just come on and chat. Alex came on and did some makeup, and Tasha came and did some makeup.
All right.
But Dean Sharp, Dean of the Dead, he's got a hot sauce company and it's all horror themed.
Oh,
So he brought a few along. I knew Alan from the dark side. He's a real chili fiend. So I really kind of, for his benefit, wanted to do it with him, but then other people wanted to have a go. So
I thought you were just torturing people with sauce just for the
well,
sake of views.
everybody
I
did better
thought,
than I did. I actually was the one who I think came off worst. It was the first one, the first time I tried it, because I did it along with everybody. The first time I tried it with Dean, I was dying. I had to like waddle off the camera and kind of spin around in the room and do a little
oh
dance
my
and
goodness.
come back. But I mean, Alan was hardcore. Alex and Mike from Tears, they were pretty hardcore. They had a big mouthful. So yeah, other people did better than I did actually. So yeah, I was
Oh,
doing that. But I've
look,
been I've been threading them through, and then I'm gonna just kind of drop this one to give the Romford thing a little break and then go back to the Romford ones.
well, good for you. And how did you find directing, having
I like
acted?
it. I was these are the questions I've got for you.
Oh, sorry.
I actually really like it. I've always liked writing, and when I was at drama school, we did do writing modules, and I didn't ever think I'd be able to write. And once I started, I was like, oh, actually, I really enjoy writing. And I feel like for an actor, when you're not working and you've got time on your hands, you might have all these story ideas. So, put them down on paper. And so I tend to like note down ideas and things. Um, I've written two features that have been made. I didn't direct them, and they were quite a long time ago, kind of early in my career. So both, I'd say, around 10 years ago now, if not longer. But yeah, it was MJ asked me if I'd come onto the first horoscopes. He thought I was ready to direct something, and I was like, well, okay, I don't know. He's got more faith in me than I do. And but I've had, I mean, working on the first one, I worked with a different DOP. The second one, I was working with Kamal Yildirim, and he really understands me because I've worked with him, as an actress. And if I'm kind of saying stuff to him, he knows what I mean, even though I've got no real technical knowledge and I don't know the jargon. But yeah, working with him, so it was kind of a co-directed thing, really, because when I was actually on screen as well, he had to take over. But I really enjoyed it. But I was going to ask you because you've been doing horror and acting about as long as I have, and I feel like we're like the complete opposites of each other. So you're like this really tall, blonde, slim, and I'm this like really short, brunette, curvy. But
Oh, you're
do
gorgeous.
you know what we would be really good for us to do together would be like a remake of James and the Giant Peach, and we could be the aunts because we'd be like the opposite end of like
No, we're the two aunts in Coraline, the two
I haven't
like
seen that.
older actresses that live in the basement.
I
That's what
haven't
we
I
are.
haven't I haven't seen
Miss
that one.
Miss Spink and Miss Forcible.
I
You'll
need to
see it
watch
now.
it. I
When
don't
you
know why
watch
I
it,
haven't.
you'll be like, that's
Is
us.
it scary?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I
But
don't know why.
beautiful.
I've heard of it. I've never. It's not Tim Burton, is it? It's
Um,
it kind of looks like it would be something of his, but I don't think it is.
is it Henry Selick or is it Tim Burton? It's no, it's a studio in Portland, Oregon.
I feel like I'd have
Um,
watched it had it been Burton. I probably would have seen it. But I'm going to put it on my
it's a good
list.
question. It's I did actually go. I went to they had an exhibition that came to London to the South Bank, where they like took you inside the world of Coraline. Hang on,
Oh,
I'll look it up.
I need to watch it. But yeah, I was going to say, are you thinking about kind of moving into directing or writing your own scripts or
Hang on. It's going to annoy me if I don't get the answer
looking
to
at the
this
Coraline?
question.
And I feel like I need to just talk to
It
it.
is. It is Henry Selick.
It is okay.
So, but yeah, so Henry Selick also directed Nightmare Before Christmas. That's why they look similar because they've got the
Ah,
same aesthetic.
yes. Yeah, they are. Slightly similar. Also, I did just go to the Burton exhibition. I didn't see any Coraline stuff there. So have you been to that yet?
No, is that
Oh,
in London?
yeah, it's at the Design Museum. It's incredible. So I went, not when I was at Romford, I was at Horror on Sea, so I went in January and they had a
Is it
Barbie
still? Do you think it's
exhibition.
still going? It's
I
April.
think the Tim Burton one is, but they had a Barbie one and the Tim Burton one on at the same time. And I was
Oh
like,
my!
that's like the two sides of my character. This is the most me day ever. And I went to both of them. I just took myself to both of them on the same day.
I think there was a Wes Anderson one last year as well.
Right. Yeah, the Tim Burton one though is I didn't realize he was such an artist, but all of his drawings
Mm.
are incredible. It's definitely worth going to.
Um. So I don't think I do want to direct.
No?
I think, yeah. I mean, I'm happy for you. I think it's good for you to do that. Um. And you should never feel like you're not capable. I think women are sort of, we have to be sort of really, really, really good before we even sort of give ourselves the opportunity to do
Yeah.
things. And men are even not even half as qualified and they just stride in going, yeah, I can
Well, I
direct,
had an
and
ex and I'd
oh,
written a script and he had worked in film, but then he didn't work in film anymore, had a different job. And he was like, well, who are you going to get to direct it? And I've still got this script. It's still in the, I'm still writing the script. Like I've written a draft of it. I've still got work to do on it. And I was like, I don't know, I might do it. And he was like, well, you can't direct it. You're not a director. And I was like, well, no one's a director until they've directed something. Like you have to start somewhere.
right.
And this is before I'd done any of my shorts. Obviously, that relationship didn't last. Talk about the ones that waste our time. That was one of them. But yeah, I was like, but no one's a director until they've directed something. And okay, so I didn't go to like a film school and learn
Yeah, but
that
all
side
these
of things.
men
I went to
haven't
drama
gone to
school and I
school
learned no,
either.
no, exactly. A lot of
Men
people
men
don't.
come out of school with this just entitlement and this arrogance. I
Yeah,
once went out, I did like not an audition as such, it was like a meeting with a guy. He was fresh out of university, so he was only 21 or 22 or something. I probably wouldn't agree to meet someone like that now, but this is a few years ago.
yeah.
And he had offered me something like a role in his script. And I said, well, I'll meet you in a coffee shop and we can talk about it. And he showed me, and by this point I had done maybe 60 films, so I was a lot more experienced than him.
Yeah.
Uh, and he showed me some images on his phone, and they weren't great, but I was trying to be polite, so I said, "Yeah, I mean, obviously this is not graded, so when it's graded, it will look better." And he looked at me and said, "I'm impressed you know what grading is." So,
Well, you've
but
been
they
doing
have
this
that
a
attitude
lot longer than him.
that I'm, the girl won't know anything.
Yes,
Um,
the actress won't know. But obviously,
yeah,
there are so many directors that have started as actors, like
yeah.
major directors. Look at, I mean, Clint Eastwood, Ron Howard, they were actors and
Orson Welles.
they've learned being on set. And I know obviously they're like a different genres, like a grander scale, but they were actors first. And a lot of people are, but you learn a lot. I mean, especially. I think in the independent film industry, because in big
Mm,
films, everybody has their precise job, everybody does their job, and that's kind of you don't get to kind of have a go, you don't get to have a look in. But when you're working in the independent industry, everybody is helping everybody out
yeah.
literally on set. So I know I've been on a set and I've finished my
You
scene.
end up holding the boom,
Yeah,
or
you're
you end
holding a
up kind
boom
of,
or
yeah.
you're making the tea or you're doing something else, but people are willing to kind of teach you things as you're going along. You're learning stuff as you're going along. So I do feel like it's the independent film industry is a very good kind of
Hmm.
school, really, because whatever you learn at drama school, and I was told this at drama school, whatever you learn, you will throw away. You'll have all that knowledge is in there, but you don't
Hmm.
necessarily go back to that when you're, taking on a role. You kind of you find your own way of what
You
works
learn,
for
you're
you.
right. And
Yeah.
you learn through doing in the end. And I did go to school and I did all the reading of all the books,
Yeah.
but ultimately I didn't really learn until I started to do
Yeah.
it. And you have to do it.
You do have to do it,
Um,
and then you learn different ways, or you bring in new things that you kind of work out as you go along. But I think that the teachings are still there. It's still like a core foundation of
mhm.
what you know, and you've got all of those tools in your belt, kind of ready to go. But it's a case of just finding what works for you, and everybody's different. Like because I had somebody earlier today, I said, "Oh, well, is there a technique really for actors to learn lines?" I'm like, no, like everyone will find a different way. I mean, there's different ways that different people do it, but there's no real way of like this is how you learn lines. You just work out what works for you.
I agree. I've had people ask me as well for tips on learning lines or tips on how do you cry on cue. And
Yeah,
I never have an answer because ultimately you have to find your own way. And I
you
can't
do.
really
Because
tell
some
you how
people
to
need
do
to
it.
write them out, hundreds of times. Some people can just look at the page and that's it. One thing somebody did say to me years ago, before I'd gone to drama school actually, and I was on a set. I had a tiny role, I had maybe one line, and that's what actually made me go to drama school, was working with other people and deciding like this is what I want to do. And they said, "Oh, read them before you go to bed because it sinks in." And actually, I do that. I mean, I'll look at a script a couple of times and I'll read it before I go to bed. And then I think your subconscious while you're asleep kind of processes that. So I do feel like
Good
that's
idea.
one thing that kind of works. And I don't know whether it really does or whether in my head I've told myself that works and therefore it does. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know either. I don't have a special technique. I wish I did. I'm still not entirely sure I know how to act, even though I've been doing it for a long time. I still feel like it's trial and error. And I still
yeah.
think
And I always hope that with a director, if I'm not doing what they want, they will work with me. Obviously, they have it in their head how they want something played.
that's the thing.
You
It's
kind of bring your
different.
thing.
It's different with different people. Different
Mm.
projects require different things from you.
Yeah. And
So you've
I
also,
find if I work
sorry,
with somebody who maybe isn't so experienced, they might have done, a couple of films or something, and they bring me on and they're like, well, she knows what she's doing, but they won't really want to ask me to do it differently, or they won't say, oh, can you try this or that? But I'd rather they
maybe
did.
they're scared of you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is your job. You're meant to direct me. You're a director. Direct. Like
Hmm.
I'm here for it. That's what I want.
I wanted to say it's Leica Studios that made Coraline because it was the Leica exhibition that I went to because I felt bad for not getting the name right.
Let me have a little look. I've got a little list. So there are a few films we're in together. Well, we've only had scenes together in Vergessen
And Burnt Flowers,
and Flowers, but we're also
and
both in Punch,
we're both in Punch.
but not
Well, we
together.
must be. We're both in Video Shop in different
Yeah.
iterations,
Well, we were in Vergessen together.
which is Video
That
Shop.
was in Video Shop. And Video Shop 2, now that it's been screened, I feel like it ends on a bit of a cliffhanger with you. So I'm wondering
You
what's
know, I haven't seen this
oh,
film,
I don't want to
and
spoil
people
it then.
keep telling me that like you're in it and it's great, and I'm like, am I? I
Yeah.
don't-
Well, I've just heard that it's screening at Southend Film Festival,
so I
which is,
have to go to Southend to see
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Well, do you know what? Southend in June is
It's
probably better than
beautiful,
Southend. Well, it's better than Southend in January,
absolutely.
isn't it?
No,
I mean, I love horror on
it's got a
sea, but
lovely
it's cold.
pier, beautiful beach, lovely
Yeah,
place.
exactly. I mean, Southend in January, which I feel for a horror festival, you do want cold and bleak, but it's very cold when you're walking from your car, even just from your car to the hotel. But yeah, June will be nice, and the fair will be open. So I was thinking it would be lovely if,
Oh,
in the middle of horror and sea, we could all go to the fair and jump on the waltzers and have some fun in amongst all of the horror. But yeah, June you'll be able to. I don't think I'm going to be there.
it's quite a journey for you now, isn't it? That's the thing.
Well, I am actually in London that day. I'm doing
Oh,
a Maggie's Little Helpers signing for Caroline Munro's, like it's for charity, Maggie's Little Helpers charity. So I am actually in London, but I don't know what the logistics, whether I'm going to be able to get to Southend, and I don't know I don't know. I'm going to
mhm.
see. I will try. If I can make it work, then I will come along. So that would be like the third time I've
Yeah,
seen.
no, it would be nice to see you, and then I can
Yeah.
see my starring role.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the third one. Yeah, because it ends on this thing with you, and I'm like, that's interesting.
Okay.
Like, what are they going to do with her in the next one?
You know, I only recorded that as a sort of favor because I was on set that day with my godson, and
Oh,
he is in it. He plays the
um,
son of God, I can't remember the woman's name, but he's in one of the segments as
right.
like a little boy, and he answers the phone and says, "You're stupid." So
Oh,
that's his acting debut, which he did when
oh,
he was
that's
five.
that's really
And I'm
sweet.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to Alex Churchyard because he gave him that part. So I was only there chaperoning. Oh, there's your little cat.
Oh, yeah, she's
I was chaperoning him that day, and then the guys said, "Oh, do you want to record a little cameo bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm here. Why not?" So I didn't know that I was recording the big finale. Apparently,
yeah, it is. It is the bit at the end. So it's very exciting. But we are almost, well, we're running out of time for part one. I
we've
told you we'd
been
go off topic
nattering.
and then I've not really asked any questions. So we'll be back with part two and I'll ask you some then. Welcome back to the Screen Princess podcast. We're back, and I'm actually gonna put you on the spot now and actually ask you stuff that
Oh
you
no!
think
Don't ask
about.
me things.
So in the little break, I've had the cat kind of all over me, and she usually like pops in for a little bit, but I've just fed her beforehand, and I think she's forgotten that she's been fed. So if
She
you hear any,
wants food.
yeah, if you hear any meows or anything, that's her saying, "Feed me." But I have fed her, and not only have I fed her, I feed them both biscuits and meat. The boy doesn't eat the meat, so she eats both.
So
And
she's had two dinners already.
yeah, she's had two dinners, she's had two breakfasts, and then I have to feed her before I go to bed. Otherwise, she has me up at like 3 a.m. to feed her. She's like,
She sounds a bit spoiled, Danny.
well, yeah, she's a bit spoiled. She is a bit spoiled, but what can you do? Otherwise, she won't let you go back to sleep. She'll just be a pain. And they don't go outside, they're indoor cats. So it's not like I can just chuck them out and go back to bed. No, she'll just constantly aggravate me if I have her inside. So, the title Scream Queen, or I know I call this a Scream Princess podcast because for a long time I felt like people were calling me a Scream Queen, and I had at the time I'd done maybe like a few films, and I was like, well, I don't think I deserve that title. I think you have to
Yeah,
have done, a certain amount of films before
yeah.
you can kind of, be labeled a Scream Queen, which I think, we both have now. But was going into horror something that you specifically sought out, or did you, how did you end up in horror? I mean, I know I trained as an actress and fell into horror and then stayed there, but what was your journey?
The same as you, I think. Yeah, I trained as an actress and then came out of school and spent a few years just auditioning for anything and everything.
Mhm.
And then I got this audition randomly for a film. It was through a casting platform which no longer exists called Temple Heart Casting. They used to have
Right.
like, it was like Mandy, but like Temple Heart.
Mhm.
And I was on there just one evening quite late. And they had a job going for people to play possessed nuns in Heretic. I think it's now called The Convent. It was called Heretic at the time.
Right.
It's a film Paul Hyatt made about nuns in a monastery or a convent, not monastery, and a sort of fever is going through the convent, and the women are getting sick one by one, and then it turns out that this fever kind of makes them into like zombies. My character died quite early and then came back, but then she had no eyes, so she was like a zombie with no eyeballs.
How did you do that? Did
Um,
they do that with those big sclera contacts?
no, I have worn the sclera lenses. I wore them on Bogeyville. They were very difficult to wear, actually.
Yeah.
No,
I can't even
on
get normal contacts in my eyes. It takes a makeup artist a lot to get
yeah.
them in my eyes.
No, for Paul Hyatt, they painted my eyelids green, like for the
Wow.
green screen. But then it meant I had to sort of walk around a lot with my eyes closed. But no, so that was kind of the first one I got, and I got it kind of by accident, really. They'd already held auditions for all the main roles, and this was just like the few parts that were left. And I don't even know, when you apply for something and you don't even know how you got in the room, you just randomly, I somehow got in the room, and did not a particularly good audition, if I'm honest. They wanted me because I don't think the character spoke. She did stuff, but not speaking. So it was like a movement focused audition. They wanted me to walk like a zombie, and I did this sort of lurching walk across the room. And I'm not really a physical theatre person, so I
Yeah.
was like, I'll give it a go. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I somehow got
Auditions
into
that make
that.
you do things like that, and I know
Yeah,
are just horrific. Like,
yeah, no, I know.
especially for someone who's got a bit of a modeling background as well, because you're used to looking good
Yeah,
and being poised, and when people make you do kind of stupid things, it's yeah,
I
it's
think you
not
just have to kind of give it a go, don't you?
yeah.
So I just gave it a go, and then randomly, I can't imagine why, but they cast me to be this possessed nun, and it was shot in a sort of abandoned castle in the Welsh countryside. So I spent a week freezing, absolutely freezing.
Well, but great
Um,
location.
it looked great, but it was very, very cold. So I spent a week in Wales doing that, and then I think one thing kind of leads to another. Once you get to know people on set, then maybe someone suggests you for, oh, my mate's casting something, and then before
Yeah,
you know it, you're in a second one, and then it sort of snowballs. But I'm happy in horror, and I've
yeah.
come to really respect the genre.
I feel the
Um,
same. I feel
it's
like
yeah,
I found my niche, and I
and it's
mean,
got more depth than I had
yeah.
originally given it credit for. Now that I've seen how it works and how much effort goes into it, yeah,
And there's so many different types of character you can play. So I like, and I love the idea of playing like the supernatural characters. And I love the idea. I'd love to experiment with like being an actual demon and having like, horrific makeup. And, as we don't tend to get those roles often, tend to get like the pretty roles or, but it'd be nice to kind of explore those sides of it as well, because there's so many different types of character
yeah.
in.
I always say this: it's such a versatile genre. You get to do things you would never get to do if you were just appearing in Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
As you said, you can be a
Although I
monster
have
one
just binge
day, or
watched Downton Abbey at the beginning of this
I
year.
love Downton Abbey,
I didn't think
but
I would, and then because it's really not the kind of thing I'd really watch. And my two of my friends are like, "You need to watch it. That you'll love the characters." So obviously, Dame Maggie Smith's character, I loved, and the
she was the
girl,
best thing in it. Yeah.
the older girl, the bitchy one, I loved her. I was like, "Yeah, she's fun." I can't remember what her character was called now, but it's
The
gone.
one that Michelle Dockery played.
Yes, yeah, I
I
love
love
her.
Michelle Dockery, but I can't remember either, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I thought she was great.
Mm. Um, but yeah, I think horror is often kind of dismissed as being a bit silly and a bit vapid. But we're seeing these new studios now,
Yeah,
A24 and Blumhouse, that are making really, really interesting work within that
yeah,
genre. So I think it's our time. It's all
I think
happening.
it is.
We've
I
just had
think
Hugh
it is.
Grant in Heretic and Anya Taylor-Joy
Yes, I haven't seen
in
Heretic
Witch.
yet.
Um, so yeah, there's like it's now attracting like A-list
Yeah,
names. Demi Moore just had The
yes,
Substance,
I
which was
haven't
a
seen that
huge
either
hit.
yet. I'm terrible at watching things.
No, it's fine. But
I'll get around
I
to it.
like that it's giving opportunities to women
Yeah,
as well. Horror's always been very good for leading women in interesting
yes,
roles.
yeah.
So I'm proud of us, and that
I'm
we're
proud
kind
of
of
us.
finally beginning to attract A-list talent, finally beginning to win awards and be taken a bit
Yeah,
more seriously. Like Demi Moore nearly won an Oscar for a horror performance,
yeah,
which would have been unheard of a few years ago. So it's a good time to be a horror actor, I think.
it is. But how do you feel about actresses or actors that, A-list actors that then do, I mean, because a lot of actors like I don't know, Nev Campbell, they do something like Scream. They never really wanted to be a Scream queen, but that's kind of stuck with them. And I don't know, they don't always like that label, but I'm quite happy with the label.
It depends how you look at it. I don't think it automatically
I'm
has to
not saying
be.
she's not happy with it. She hasn't said
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
just meant that was an example of somebody who's kind of come from other
It's
areas.
not like, but this is what I mean. This is why people in the past would have been trying to get away from the label because it wasn't
Mm.
taken seriously, and then it was sort of seen that, oh, you weren't a serious actress. Like Demi Moore said, she was described as a popcorn actress,
Mm.
and that's why people
I'd be
felt they
okay with
had
that.
to.
Like, yeah,
But
give me
I think it's
more.
changing, and as I said, I think horror performances absolutely are serious performances. If you look at Isabel Adjani and some of the performances she gave in her early work, she was stunning in the original Nosferatu.
Mm.
Um, so I don't think it's necessarily a derogatory title or something to be
No.
like ashamed of. I'm very proud to work in horror.
And I think
Um,
it's empowering for women as well. I think a lot of the roles, and actually speaking to some of the Hammer actresses from the days gone by, and I've seen them be asked questions like, "Oh, but you didn't get to wear very much, and you didn't." And then they were like, "Well, we weren't forced. We got paid money. You know what I mean? We weren't
mm,
forced. We didn't do anything we didn't want to do, and also like they weren't ashamed of their bodies or being seen. So if viewers have got problems with it, that's the viewers' problem. You don't have to watch it. But I know none of them did, and I think it's quite empowering being a woman, being able to, you know, do what you want.
yeah, I think unfortunately that there exists this kind of feeling that if you're kind of sexual on screen or in photographs, that that negates everything else about you, that like you're
Yeah.
automatically stupid, that you couldn't
Yeah. When
be
actually there's,
an
a
intelligent
million different
person.
layers to people.
Yeah. And I also think that men are never held to this double standard. Men are allowed to sleep with as many ladies as they want, and it never impacts their career. You can still be elected president of the United States as a
Yes.
rapist. But women get this thing of, oh, she's a bit slutty, or oh, she's a bit this.
Yeah.
And I see my life as kind of, I'm always fighting against that perception.
Yeah.
I hold very serious, responsible positions at my union,
Yeah, you
and
do
I
that
also
collectively, don't
model
you?
at the same
Yeah.
time. And I don't feel that modeling negates anything
No.
I do politically. I think I'm still a very good chair, and I hope that I can lead by example in that. That I can show people that
Yeah.
look at me, I can do both,
Yeah,
and
I
it
agree.
doesn't
I mean,
make
I
me any
came from a
less.
modeling background before I went to drama school. So I was, and then whatever I do now, that's already there. It's on the internet. So, I'm not ashamed of it anyway. And I still model and, I think it's fine. But I can also read a book and I can also, there's many things I
Exactly.
can do. So, people don't necessarily always, they don't know who you
No,
are.
I get that all the time. I get so many people, that will sort of, I think they look at me and they begin from the automatic assumption that I'm not bright. And
Yeah.
I'll get questions like, was it difficult for you? Did you go to school? I had
Did
that
you go to
genuinely. I was
school?
out
Goodness.
a few weeks ago. I had dinner with a male friend who looked at me and said, did you go to school?
What
And
was
I
your
thought
answer?
it's very difficult to answer because I could sit and I could list all my qualifications. I
Yeah.
also kind of feel like I shouldn't have to.
No,
I
I'd
mean,
be
would a
like, did
man be
you?
asked to
Everyone goes
list
to school.
qualifications? Um,
That's so
or
rude. Did you finish the dinner? Did you stay sitting with him?
I did, but after that I never. He's texted me a few times since then, and I've not replied
No,
because I
and
can't. But
I
you'd be
feel
amazed
like it might make
how
him feel,
often.
it might make him feel like a bigger man if he can put a woman down.
I don't know. I think you'd be amazed how often I encounter that. Like I've been chair at Equity now for nearly 5 years, and I still have people saying to me, like one of the members the other day said, I made a point about something in a debate, and he looked at me and went, did you go to university? So it had not occurred to him in all that time that I might have
Yeah,
been to university.
yeah.
So
Pretty girls can't get in his head.
yeah, but I think all we can do, it's like that probably will not change in my lifetime, that mentality.
Mm.
But all I can do is keep living and hopefully demonstrating through my actions and through how I live that
Yeah,
this is not true.
yeah.
Um, you can't, you know, I can't change these people, but I can only keep living and trying to lead by example.
So what's a typical day in the life of Aviana Snow? Like from getting up in the morning, what happens in your day?
I live alone, so I spend quite a lot of the day alone, which isn't, a bad thing. I'm used to it. So
You have
I get
pets?
up. No, no. um, I get up and drink lots of coffee, and then I do my emails. I do a lot of equity admin work. So if people email, if equity, it's often me that's like sitting answering their email. Um, I I do some work. Like at the moment, I'm in talks to go to Canada to make a film. So there might be like something in the inbox I've got to answer. There might be a self tape request. There might be a bit of content I've got to post. I read a lot. I go to the theatre if I can to see stuff. Um,
What kind of stuff do you
I go for
read?
long
Do you read
walks in
like,
Ealing. Sorry?
I love a long one. What kind of stuff do you read? Like fictional stuff or like a mix, I guess. But
I read lots of things. I've read the entire canon of Orwell, and Woodhouse and most of Margaret Atwood. Um, just like smart people with something to say, with an interesting perspective.
yeah.
I also read like I've just been reading a book, all the letters that were sent to and from the National Theatre from like 1970 up until the present day. It's really interesting. There's a letter from Derek Jacobi from like 25 years ago
Oh
complaining that
wow.
he hadn't been given a lead role. And it's just like, and then you get the answer where it's like, dear Mr. Jacobi, we love working with you, but it's just unfortunate this time, and like
Yeah, yeah.
I
That's
kind of I
really
saw
interesting.
it is, and you see the kind of humanity that like even Derek Jacobi in 1975 was facing the same issues that I face today. And then I feel like
Yeah.
slightly less bad about my life because I think it's okay. Every actor has been through this.
Everyone goes through it. Not everyone can get all the roles. There's always kind of more people. And also, you can do the best audition you've ever
Yeah.
done. And if the casting director just doesn't have that picture of the character in his head, like he thinks you or he or she has a picture of what the character looks like, you do the best audition and they're going to go with somebody who's done a really rubbish one because they look right and they think, oh well, actually I could work with them. Or you could, and I've done horrible auditions where I've walked out going, what was that? And then got the role. So
Me too. I've just done the last two tapes I sent off. The first one I thought myself was really good. Like I really felt like I really got that. And
yeah,
then they got a name for the role and I was
right.
chucked out the window and it doesn't matter how good I was.
Yeah.
Um, and then the second tape, I'll be honest, I didn't really like the tape. I didn't feel I suited the character. The whole thing was just not really vibing, but I just sent it off anyway. And that's the one I got.
I much prefer a tape than being in a room. Do you prefer a tape or a room? I mean,
I
I know
feel
it's
like,
good that they can work with you in the room, but I feel like all the
yeah,
nerves get in the way, whereas on a tape, I'm not nervous.
I think I think I prefer being in the room because at least you can meet people and you can, as you say, take direction or you can ask a question. Like that, for instance, that last tape I did, it was really unclear what they wanted from me, and I would
Right.
have liked to have been able to ask. I also
Yeah.
think the way the industry is going, they're forcing a lot of the costs on actors,
Mm.
which previously it would have been on them to hire a room, hire a videographer and a
Wow.
camera, and whereas nowadays all of that stuff is being put on
Well, you have to be
actors.
able to do everything now. You have to know
We
how to
have to have
edit
our own
things.
camera set up. We have
Yeah.
to be able to edit the tape and make it into the correct format and then put
Yes.
it on Dropbox. And I
Yeah.
sometimes feel like they should almost be paying me the amount of like
Yeah,
stuff
like,
they need you to
or
do.
yeah, at least pay you for your time, like an hour's wage or however long it took you.
And especially if the self-tape demands are unreasonable. Like I think it's fine to send me a couple of
I'm very
sides
late.
and
I'm
it's
very lazy,
just,
so I probably won't
yeah,
do
just me
that.
sitting in front of like a blank wall. But I've had requests, could you film yourself cycling? I had to go and get a bicycle. I've had requests, could you film this scene outdoors and
Yeah,
enter from and show us a full length shot of you walking? And
not
like, I mean,
practical.
well, luckily enough, I have a garden, but I thought a lot of people don't in London. You'd
No.
have to go to a
Can
park,
you imagine doing it
like,
in a park? You'd look like a complete crazy person.
yeah.
I do
So
you know when you see people walking around though, talking to themselves in London, because there's a lot of weirdos in London. And I used to think they are just weirdos. And then I realized once I started acting, they
they're
might just be actors
self-taping.
learning their lines and they're just walking around talking to themselves as they're on the way to
So
the tube.
I do think that casting people need to keep their taping demands realistic,
Yeah.
something people can do,
Yeah, like a plain
fairly
background is
simply.
reasonable. A
Yeah,
plain background and a tripod. And then also they're wanting you to have somebody who can read off camera. Not everybody has a person to read. I mean, I've had friends that are going, can you do this via Zoom with me so that just your voice is in it?
yeah.
It's like, it's,
And
then
also,
you're
I
pulling in
think,
people who, also people are asking their friends who might not even be actors. And it's like, you're
yeah,
literally getting into people's lives.
I agree. And also, I think there needs to be a time frame. So you need to have like at least give me a week to pull this together.
Yeah.
I often get these requests and it's
Yeah.
like, can I have it tomorrow morning? I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
no,
no, you
that's
can't.
not going to happen. I actually, for Hunger, I did auditions via Zoom, which worked quite well because then I could
Okay.
work with them. and
Yeah,
get
that
them
is
to
a good
do things. So that
idea.
actually worked quite well. So it's kind of like a casting process, but I didn't have a space for them to kind of go to do it. But I've interrupted your day in the life of. You got as far as your reading.
I think I finished it. I go for a walk most
You go for
days.
walks.
I try to go to the theatre if I can. I read a bit. I don't do anything interesting. I think people want it to sound more glamorous than it
Well, I
is.
don't know. I do see
Um,
you looking glamorous at many events on your
it's
Instagram.
it's not. It's maybe 1 or 2 days out of the
One,
full
one or two
year,
days,
and then the
and
other
you just keep your pictures
363
up.
days, I'm at home on the sofa. Yeah, it's not as you know the truth that it's not
Yeah.
as glamorous as we make
Yeah,
it
because
look.
and you might do, one film here and then have weeks off and then something else. Or you might go to one event, but you just have to kind of look busy and eke out the pictures. I'm not very good with Instagram. Like I'll do stuff and I'll post it and then I won't post anything for ages if I'm quiet. So you can tell if I'm quiet because I just don't post anything.
I
Yes.
mean, it depends how seriously you want to take it. I mean, I kind of don't mind shooting just myself in
Yeah.
a coffee shop or something just to sort of but I don't mind doing it. But I think
Yeah.
I know some people really hate and they find it really onerous having to like film themselves all the time.
I don't mind
And I
though.
do get that. So
Yeah. I think then again, it depends. Like we've both got modeling backgrounds as well, so we're kind of used to doing those shots. Where
yeah,
like somebody who's an actor that doesn't model as well would kind of feel a bit more like, why am I why am I doing this? What is it for?
I sometimes think people must think I can understand people being annoyed with me if they see me coming down the street and I'm like filming myself as I walk. I probably look really vacuous.
Well, yeah,
But
but you know what? Everyone does it now. You've got all of the influencers and so many people doing stuff like that. That I mean, I got caught in the gym the other day. I was in the gym and I was doing a selfie, and my friend walked in. And he was like, photo bombed me, but.
I think you've just got to do what, as I said at the beginning, do what suits yourself and try not
Yeah.
to let other people's judgment get in the way.
True. So are there any genres that you particularly like to work in that are not horror?
Um, Maybe like a period drama might be quite nice, or a sci-fi. I mean, I'm really open to anything. Yeah, just anything that's well written. I like good writing. I've always wanted to do a Tom Stoppard on the stage. Um, I did an Oscar Wilde a couple of years ago. I did Lady Windermere, which was fun. So I like working with well written language. Um,
Do you enjoy doing theatre or film more?
I've been doing film more recently, but I do still love the theatre. I still go
Yeah.
to the theatre a lot, and I'm still looking out for if the right show came along, I would be happy to do it. But I have to be a bit more selective when it comes to choosing a play because it takes up a lot more of my time.
Yeah,
Whereas
it's a lot of
I can do
rehearsal.
I can do a film in like a week.
Yeah.
And if the film is crap, you go, oh well.
Yeah,
but,
it is a week. I got time.
whereas like with a play, it's like several weeks of rehearsal, then it might be like 4 or 5 months of the run. And before I
Yeah.
know it, like half my year is gone. So if I'm
Yeah,
gonna
it's a
do it, it's
lot.
got to be a good play.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I'm really open, I'm happy to do if it's a good team
Yeah.
working with good people.
So what kind of stuff do you find yourself watching on TV? Or do you watch a lot of TV? Because I know a lot of actors, we don't really watch much TV, and I don't watch an awful lot.
Um, yeah, I actually don't have a television. I do have like Amazon Prime
Yeah.
and Netflix and that kind of thing, so I can stream if there's something
Yeah.
I
Oh,
particularly
I'm the
want to
same. I don't have
watch.
a TV license. I just stream
Yeah, no,
Amazon and Netflix.
um what have I watched recently? I watched Mind Hunter on Netflix. I thought that was very good.
Right.
I watched what have I watched? I saw the motive in the queue in the NT Live. It's a film of a play, so I guess it's not really a
Oh,
film,
okay.
but which was about when John Gielgud directed Richard Burton in Hamlet. That
Right.
was really, really good. Um, But again, I guess I like it because it's about actors and rehearsals,
Yeah.
and it's about my like the place where I feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
you're kind of
So
yeah, your industry and you kind of understand in a different
yeah.
way. Is there
What
anything that
about you?
what do I watch? I go through phases. Like I love a good binge watch. And since I moved to the north, I binge watched Vera because she's from here.
Ah,
So, but the reason I binge watch it is because I can walk to the beach and I'll be like, well, Vera filmed on that bit of the beach and Vera filmed at that fair and she filmed at that.
oh
So you
wow.
can kind of spot all of these, and even our town hall, which is like 2 minutes from me, she filmed like the last episode. She was at the town hall and the ice cream shop in the town. So I do binge watch these. I've just binge watched for a second time a series called Timeless, which is really good. They time traveled to stop people assassinating like important historical figures and things, and that was quite a cool one. There was only 2 series though. I feel like it could have gone on for longer. So I go through phases, like, and that was actually, so I suppose that's a bit kind of sci-fi fantasy, which is not usually what I'd watch. Um, I don't know, I go through phases. But is there anything that you like, any series is or any that you've watched that you wish you'd been cast in? Because I think you'd have a very good kind of Game of Thronesy look. You could have been something in Game of Thrones. You'd have done really well in that. They should have cast
Maybe
you.
like Cersei Lannister with the kind of slightly
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah,
um,
I feel like you would have fit in really well. They should have been you. I don't know, as another character. I think
bless
that
you.
would have
It's very
worked.
kind.
But
Um, I don't know. What would you choose if you could be anything? I never know what to say when people ask me
I'd
this.
go a bit old school because I was a big Buffy fan, so I'd have loved to have done something like Buffy or I don't know, something. I suppose it's still kind of horror. That's I guess an early kind of influence of mine in my
Hmm.
teenage years watching Buffy. So I would have liked to have done something like that. I always thought if they'd have done a spin-off with the character. Did you ever watch it? Buffy the Vampire.
No, not really. It was Sarah Michelle
No.
Gellar, isn't it?
Yes, and they are bringing it back. But I always thought if they did a spin-off, they had a character played by Anthony Head, and he played the Watcher. And obviously he's very British. And I always thought they should do a spin-off with him in England of his like his past, or I don't
And then
know.
you can be
Yeah, I
somebody.
totally had kind of had it in my mind. I could have cast myself in that, but you know, it
I
wasn't.
love it.
It wasn't to be.
Hey, look, you don't know, right? They're bringing it back.
Yeah, I mean,
You
I
don't
don't think
know.
they're gonna. I think he's probably too old now to do a kind of prequel of his earlier life. That I don't know how that would work with the flashbacks, but you never know. Also, I'm probably in the wrong country for like, the main series.
You can fly over.
You
It's
know.
fine. This
Also,
is
I always wanted to
doable.
be in Home and Away.
Okay.
Yeah, I
That's a
know.
different vibe,
I know.
but I
But
like it.
I grew up watching soaps and I loved Home and Away. I don't watch it anymore, but I still feel like, well, a week in the sun would be nice, wouldn't it? Just a kind of day player role would do, just so I walk on,
That's
couple
the
of lines.
Australian soap, isn't it? Home and Away.
Yes. Yeah, I used to rush home from school and it would be Neighbours and Home
Oh,
and Away. And like me and my friend would watch Neighbours and Home and Away religiously before even thinking about homework. So yeah, I kind of, I know it's really random. It's not very Scream Queen. Although they did recently have a storyline where a horror actress turned up in Summer Bay. I think she got murdered for real by a stalker fan. I think that's what happened. But I was like, that would have been my role.
that could have been you.
That would
That
have
was
been the
it.
ideal role. And it went to somebody else. So
Well, that's how Margot Robbie got started. So
she was Neighbours
don't knock it,
and Kylie Minogue.
That's right.
So the cats are now
Send
starting
your
to go
CV.
mental. Yes. Well, Neighbours is being cancelled for a second time. So I feel like
Oh,
the Neighbours dream would be over, but the Home and Away dream still stands. So if anybody from Home and Away casting is,
is watching this
is watching
podcast.
this, like on the very
Danny
rare
is
chance,
available.
yeah, I'm
Very
available. I
available.
could be hired. I could be hired. What else have I got on here? What was the first horror film you ever watched? Can you remember?
I think it might have been The Others with Nicole Kidman. Have you seen
Well,
it?
on Nicole Kidman look. You've
Thank
got like
you.
a
That's very kind.
Nicole Kidman vibe.
She's great.
Mm.
It's quite a classic haunted house setup. But
Yes,
I
I've seen
like
it.
quite a classic setup. I think people overcomplicate their horror sometimes, and
Yeah.
actually just something simple,
I need
scary
to throw a cushion
house.
to stop the cat. There's a cat, the other cat. Stop it.
Oh my word.
I didn't go
Um,
at him. I just needed him to. He's in the bin. He's not. It's in the studio. It's only got paper in it, but he's like knocked over the bin. He's,
oh my carnage.
it's the boy one. Yeah, he was asleep earlier. He's woken up and now he's causing problems. He's gonna go back to do it again. And Nicole Kidman's doing quite a lot recently. I feel like she's
She's
super busy
amazing. I
now.
really admire that work
I
ethic
just watched a
actually
film.
because
I loved Moulin
Baby
Rouge.
Girl.
No, I watched a film the other day with her in it. I can't think what it was called now. I'm not even going to remember. I have to find it. It was an odd one. It was quite kind of psychological. Um, I'll find it. I think it was on Netflix or Prime. It was on one of those. She was really good. Holland. It was called Holland.
Yes, that's quite new. I think that's her latest.
Yeah, I just watched that the other day. It was odd, but she was good in it. I love her in Bewitched and Practical Magic, all the witchy
All
films.
the classics.
Yeah,
No, but I love that women like her and Demi Moore are still working and still busy,
yeah.
and it really bodes well for, for a future. I don't, because you don't want your career to be over as soon as you turn 35. I think
No,
it's ridiculous.
and it used to
Men are
be. It
allowed to
used to
go
be.
on.
It used to be before you
Um,
turned 30, I think, back years
yeah.
ago.
So I'm
You
really
were put out to
pleased to see,
pasture.
strong, clever women, mature women still having their voices out there.
Yeah,
It's
100%.
fantastic.
Did you see Big Little Lies?
Yeah, so this was her and Reese
Yeah,
Witherspoon,
because Reese
I think.
Witherspoon's another person who has got an incredible career. And I think
Yeah.
obviously she played a role in Legally Blonde. And I'm sure because she's very petite and she's blonde and she's very softly spoken, I'm sure people do think she's going to be more like that character, but she's actually a powerhouse. I mean,
She's smart.
she's smart,
Absolutely.
but she's producing. I mean, she produced the Big Little Lies, and then I think there was Little Fires Everywhere, or pretty, yeah, I think it was Little Fires Everywhere. I think she did that, and then she's done. I don't know. She's so busy. She did When the Crawdads Sing. She produced that.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, she's so busy, and she's got a cookbook, and she had a fashion label. So I love kind of female entrepreneurs who have got kind of
Yeah, multifaceted women.
yeah,
Um, and like I also admire Trinny Woodall, who's I know she's not an actress, but she does have like a beauty line,
yeah.
and she's opened a shop in London and now a shop in New York. She's got
Mm.
her own podcast, a book, a YouTube channel. Like I love that women in their 60s are still coming into their own. That's what it
Do you know,
feels like. She's
years
like
ago,
she's finally found her voice.
I did an
Um,
episode of Trinity and Susanna.
did you?
Yeah, it was years
Did
ago.
they like what not to wear?
Yeah. And I think it was when I was blonde and I was a glamour model and I think I was in the Daily Sport on the day I was on page
And
3.
what did they when they changed your
Well, they
look? Like what did
changed me
they?
from being blonde. I don't know if it was what not to wear or what. It was definitely Trinity Susanna. I don't know what it was called, but they basically did a makeover and I was still blonde, but they put me in different clothes. So I mean, obviously it's all very staged. So they're like, dress as glamour model as you can for this. And I can't remember what I was wearing, but I know I had my dogs like in dresses. And then I remember them saying, "Oh, Daddy's in the Daily Sport today," which I was. And then they actually put me in, I think, some jeans and a nice jacket, and it was like yeah,
Like did you like the look that
I
they
did
gave you?
like
Was
the
it
look,
nice?
yeah, and
Oh,
I
good.
got to keep the clothes. I did like the look, and I wore the jacket for a long time. But yeah,
That's amazing. Wow, I did not know this about you.
I've done all sorts of really random things in my past.
Wow, what an experience. Dressed by Trini and
They
Suzanne.
were both really nice as well.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were both really, really nice because I do think with that kind of glamour model look, they probably could have been like, oh, here we go, and they weren't like that.
Good. No, well, they shouldn't be. Women shouldn't judge other
They
women.
shouldn't, no, but some do, some
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
So, what's your all-time favorite horror film? We're going to end on this because we're almost out of time.
This is a lot of pressure. Um, all-time favorite. Maybe I can't choose. I like Judy and Punch, which is a sort of Irish Australian film,
I have never
which
heard of this
tells
one.
It's really interesting. It tells the story of Punch and Judy, but from Judy's perspective. That's why it's Judy and Punch.
Okay.
And so it's got a kind of feminist vibe, which I like. It's like folk horror,
Mm.
also a slightly supernatural. There's like a ghost in it. It stars Mia Wasikowska, who's an actress I really like. And it's just a good, it's like a really, really good, tight couple of hours. Yeah, and it's one of those films that kind of I think it should have been a bigger hit at the
Yeah,
time. It's like maybe 5 or 6 years old now, but
I'll have to look it up.
yeah,
And
yeah, it's good.
what have you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
I think that I'm going to be doing Fairy Dust in the autumn, which is Chad Michael Ward, which is a wonderful kind of a fantasy movie, sort of in the same kind of vein as Pan's Labyrinth.
Okay.
In sort of I can't obviously say too much, but there's a girl who goes on a journey and meets a lot of fantastical characters. Chad makes all the masks and costumes
Oh wow,
himself, very elaborate. It's going to look beautiful,
that's cool.
very cinematic. So very excited to be working with him. And there might potentially be another project on the cards, which I can't probably talk
Yeah.
about yet, but I hope I'll be filming again by the summer.
Amazing. Well,
It all
thank
goes to plan.
yeah, it all goes to plan. Well, thank you so much for coming on. You've been
Thank you
great.
for
I
having
didn't even
me.
get through all of the questions because we've just been chatting, but it's been great. I think we've had a good insight into, your life as a scream queen.
Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
You're very welcome.